Hello guys, it's Chris here, otherwise known as UtdActive on Twitter. So today it's a little bit of a different podcast. I've asked a lot of people online on Twitter some of the questions that they want to give me, and I do have some updates on those particular questions, and that's the reason why I posted it out, because I expected people to give me the similar sort of questions of some of the updates I've got. So we're going to jump straight into that, and anything that's been missed off, we'll talk about some players at the end, and some detail around that, where that might look. But it's going to be incredibly short. Some Twitter questions, I just felt like to give a little bit back to the community, give a little bit more detail around stuff, because I am busy. Sometimes I can't give you the masses of detail. But today I've got a little bit of time set aside where I can just go through some of the stuff. So we're going to jump straight into that in no particular order, and we're going to just answer those particular questions. So the first person has said, will there be any significant high-profile outgoings? Well, yes, we already know who's leaving. So Matic is leaving. Paul Pogba, there is no new contract for him, and he hasn't signed it, so he's off as it stands. So then there's been nothing with his agent coming to Manchester United saying, yeah, we'll sign it. So you can kind of get to know where that's going. So those are the kind of the big ones. You've got Mata going, obviously long service to Manchester United since David Moyes. So he's been there for a few years. Hasn't been great for the last 3 years, or hasn't been used properly, we'll say. He'll be leaving as well. And there's potentials for Wan-Bissaka to leave, but it just depends on what Ten Hag wants to do with Wan-Bissaka. Although there's been a lot of links with right backs and stuff like that, so it does look a little bit bleak for him. Okay, and he said, other than those who run down their contracts, of course. Okay, well, yeah. I've just explained the ones that didn't, but as I said, Wan-Bissaka could go. The lot might do. It just depends on Ten Hag. He's looking at the outgoings. He's going to be interviewing some of the players just to understand what they're like they are as a person, and obviously reset the atmosphere and stuff like that's going on. So there could be some potentials leave, but most of the squad will stay together. Anthony Martial might leave. Doesn't look great at the moment for him. Hasn't had a great time in Sevilla. So I would say the ones to watch would be Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, and Martial in the summer, and we'll see what happens with those ones. Also, some clarity on midfielder signings, especially De Jong, Tchouaméni, and Kamara. So let's take it down. There's been a lot of stuff from the Spanish sources, not mainstream. I think there's a couple mainstream, I don't know, have said that De Jong might leave if a bid came in for around 58, 60 million pounds. It's incredibly cheap for the type of player. He used to work with Ten Hag. But what I've been told on that at the moment, there is nothing for this window. It's not a priority signing. Could be something from the following season after. But I'm not going to rule out, because Barcelona do need some money. So we'll have to see with that. But as I said, at the moment, Manchester United are not focusing or putting their efforts into it. And there has been nothing on the English media side after having those discussions. So nothing there at the moment. Tchouaméni from Monaco. So he looks likely to go to Madrid, although there's been some news linking him to Liverpool, and I know Liverpool are probably interested in him. And Manchester United are interested in him at the moment. There is nothing concrete with him. He's going to make a decision at the end of the season, from what I understand. Manchester United do want to know what his intentions are, and if he says, "Look, I don't know," they're going to avoid a Camavinga situation and just leave it and move on to another target. So we'll know pretty swiftly what's going to happen with Tchouaméni. Now, Kamara from Marseille, nothing going on at the moment. Kamara will make, again, like most of the free contract players, will make the decision at the end of the season. Manchester United still retain interest. If you remember, in January, I said, look, this signing's not going to happen in January, but Manchester United did say to his camp, look, we'll have a new manager, we'll speak to him, and we'll see if he wants to bring you in. And we'll know that in the next few weeks if there is anything for Kamara. He does want a contract around 150k a week, 4 to 5 year deal, so which is reasonable, I would say, in terms of the current climate with wages and those sort of things. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. But thank you for the question. Jewish2710 said, aside from Paul Mitchell, what other changes are being made? Is Ralph going to have a say in the medical team improvement? This is an issue, especially since Ralph has expressed concerns. Yes. So most of the changes you're seeing now is because of Rangnick's suggestions. He said the recruitment wasn't good enough, I remember. He said the medical department wasn't good enough. He said the food department wasn't good enough. He was quite detailed in what he said, and everyone knows that, and that's been highlighted. So there will be some more changes in terms of the recruitment will be a little bit more streamlined. And, a better caliber of staff, people that have proven it on different clubs, like Paul Mitchell, for instance, will happen. And I expect some more changes as we go along, especially when you start to structure any company or a football team. You start to see actually this doesn't align with that service, so we might have to change that. And they'll look to the injury records and those sort of thing and say, look, we need to make those changes. So the medical department certainly is one to be reviewed. And I expect some more staff to go. And I expect them to either say they've stepped down, aka fired. And we'll see in the next few weeks. That will take a longer time than them getting players in. It might happen over a year or two, but they are making those changes as they go along, and it's a long-term project that they're doing at Manchester United now with the club Ten Hag and all the new structure, along with consultant Rangnick. Muzamil, sorry if I can't pronounce your names. Being Swedish and doing an English can be sometimes difficult. Pretty good. Paul Mitchell's situation. Okay, so Paul Mitchell at the moment has had some negotiations with Manchester United. He's had some negotiations on a couple of occasions, trying to understand what particular role they want for him. There's discussions around technical director, but that's Fletcher's role. Maybe that changes. But Rangnick and Ten Hag are pushing for him, and I have said that months ago that would happen, and it is happening now. We spoke about Paul Mitchell for the last few months. It is looking more likely than not likely at this point in time. All I will say at the moment is if you're seeing out there that it's been completed, it hasn't. But Manchester United are quite relaxed about the situation because they already have John, they have Rangnick, who arguably knows where to sign the types of players and where to get them from. He's done that on other clubs. And obviously they've got Ten Hag now. So they're already in a strong position to make the signings they want to make this summer. But I would say Paul Mitchell is one to watch. He's interested in helping Manchester United to get back where they were. And there's a lot of changes going on, and it's a positive. But at the moment, there's no contract on the table. There is just discussions around what they could see him do as a job. And we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with that one. For sure, I'll have another update on that. Thank you, Chris. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Christopher Layton. That's very nicely appreciated. Okay, so Farm Tom. Should we expect, this is one of my Discord members, by the way, should we expect most of the ins to be done when we start the preseason? And is there any player that, in your opinion, we will definitely get? Okay, so the answer of your first part of the question, do I expect most of the ins to be done when we start preseason? I do myself, because if you're back in Ten Hag, you would want him to have a full preseason. So you kind of expect the most of his signings to be done during preseason. But you have to remember negotiations depend on both clubs, so it could take time. I could say it now, and then the negotiations drag on for an extra 2 to 3 weeks. We saw that with Sancho. There should have been 3 weeks, and it ended up being a longer time than that, as you know, in one season. So we have to be mindful of that. But I expect him to have most of his signings in by pre-season if they want to do it the right way, if they want to be successful next season. So we'll have to see from there. But my expectation is, yes, the bulk of the players that he wants will be in before the pre-season. But that is just an opinion, and that's a logical opinion of where I think that might fit. And you kind of expect that from what they've been saying and how they've been handling the situation at the club at the current process. So yeah. Is there any player that, in your opinion, we will definitely get? My opinion, so that's a difficult one, because I always, when I report, I only report with 100% certainty, and then when I give my opinion, people think it's gospel and it's it's happening. So if I say that, just be mindful that it isn't a definite, because the way I work is as soon as I know that it's happening, I will tweet it, and people that know they've been with me the last few years will know if I tweet it here or I tweet it in real life on my other accounts for journalism, they will know that it's 100% done. But at the moment, let's just give my opinion. I personally think Manchester United will get Timber this summer. Will that happen? Let's see. But I just have a feeling that Timber looks to be the next sort of player to start his sort of new era off into Man United. And I think they'll look for that type of player. It's him or Pau Torres for me that they would get, because Pau Torres is only 55 million euros release clause, which is incredibly cheap. So I think one of those two players would come for Manchester United. And there's the chances for Darwin Núñez, or there's chances for Darwin Núñez as well, but we'll have to see with that one. Who are against Paul Mitchell coming into the theatre in that board? Okay, Cedric. Well, first and foremost, that is fabricated. There is nobody against it. The news was incorrect. I think Paletti Goals sent it out or something. A journalist from Sky Sports sent it out. Yeah, that's fabricated. There is nothing. There is nobody against it. The issue was people were thinking that he was going to take Fletcher's role, and then it created a news story. So there's nothing in that one at the moment. KR91 said, what's the latest on Paul Mitchell? I've just explained it. If you just look a little bit back, but thank you for the question. Have United and Ten Hag finalised the shortlist for transfers? Not at the moment. There's a long list of players, and I have discussed them over numerous podcasts. But I did send a tweet yesterday that in the next couple of weeks, we will have a definite list of players like we have in the last previous seasons that I've tweeted out. So you keep an eye on that one. I will have a list for you in no time at all. Rashi says, how many Manchester United will sign? Can they complete their signing before they travel for pre-season? Yeah, I just spoke to that when Tom asked me the question. Yes, I do believe they will sign most of their players before pre-season if they want to get it spot on this time. And I do think Manchester United are going to sign more than 4 players. A lot of people are saying, no, Chris, it's not going to happen. Right? You got to look at this in a sense. Is that in the past, Manchester United have gone and spent silly money on prices that they shouldn't have done, fees on players and agent fees. Right? Club's not going to do that anymore. You could see a player coming in for 15 million that nobody's heard of, right? I'm hinting here. There's going to be some surprises at some point, and we'll have those names. But there will be some players in there that you've never heard of, and you'll start questioning them because that's what fans do. But that is what they want to do. They're looking for a long-term project. They're looking for the players that fit his style, and not players that have a massive brand or a big name, and they kind of expect that. Of course, you're going to have a mixture of top talent with players that they can grow and youth players, and that's what they're looking to do. So when I say there could be 6 players, you could get 2 or 3 of them for 30, 40 million. Okay, so you have to be mindful of that there will be some changes this summer that you're not used to. How many players do you think will be sold for transfer fee? Probably not a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, you've got Wan-Bissaka and Dalot, but you can't sell them both because you're going to need someone else in there as well. But we'll have to see with that. I would say about 3 players, minimal 3 players will get transfer fee on that one. Philip Louise has said, is there anything on Phillips and De Jong? Calvin Phillips, Manchester United appreciate him. Haven't had the final decision with Ten Hag, which actually the news has come out about that today. Fabrizio Romano has said that. And I said that a few weeks back, that Calvin Phillips is appreciated by Manchester United, but it's up to Ten Hag, and that's coming out now today. So that's where we are with Calvin Phillips. He's an alternative to Declan Rice, which is clearly what the board of Manchester United are thinking. Can play that kind of football that Ten Hag wants and break up the play and those sort of things. So we'll have to see with that one. There is nothing advanced. There's negotiations, and it would be quite an easy deal to do, I would say, 35 to 40 million. It won't be too expensive. Hasn't played a lot this season. That could be a concern, of course. So we'll have to see with Calvin Phillips, but it's up to Ten Hag with this one. They could say no, and that doesn't happen. So we'll see what goes on. And with Frankie De Jong, I've said don't believe it will happen this season, from what I've been told. But Spanish sources keep linking him, so we'll have to see with that one. But I just don't see it. The player's happy at Barcelona and the manager's happy. And that means, they're going to try and help him out a little bit with them. They've faltered a little bit recently, but they've got a big project with Xavi there. How many Ajax, and this is from Cheese Kimbap. How many Ajax players, so aka Anthony Timber, do you think it's realistic for United to bring in? I would say one, and the only reason why I say that is because Ajax have already lost a lot of players. So if you look, they've lost the right back. The Gravenberch Birch is going to leave. They might lose someone else, one of the strikers. So it will either be Anthony or Timber. I think probably going to be Timber. But if Ajax are able to, if the price is right and the fees right, and if it's a good structured deal, is what Manchester United would want to do with Ajax, given their relationship, then they could be swayed. So we'll have to see from that one. But I would say you're betting on one at the moment, that one. Any more of these incoming, you're fired from Vince McMahon. Okay. So, yeah, there's going to be a few more, I'm sure. A couple more. Matt Judge, at the moment, is under scrutiny, and obviously they've got to have discussions about his future. That's not concrete, so don't start celebrating. It's not being fired yet or anything like that. He's just having a decision on his future and those sort of things. Just a discussion around that one. Jardel Muller said Paul Mitchell and United. Yeah, I've just explained that at the start of the video. So just to recap again, and I think a lot of people were asking me about Paul Mitchell. Had some negotiations. Deal's not done yet. There's a little bit more at the start of the video, which you've probably seen. Kings Jonathan, what do you feel will happen to Rashford? Because Ten Hag uses a left foot right wing, and I don't see him bouncing Sancho, and he'll want to be a starter because of the World Cup. Now, with Rashford, and I'm glad someone's brought this up. With Rashford, so Rashford, it doesn't want to leave the club at the moment. There's no issues with Rashford at the moment. What he wants to know and what Marcus wants to know is what his future is going to look like under Ten Hag. So he's looking forward to speaking to Ten Hag, and then he will make a decision from there. But Ten Hag likes these types of players, and he also likes Sancho. And this is why I think Timber is a little bit more of a possibility than the Brazilian Antony, because he might already think, actually, we've got enough depth on the wings, and we could go with there, and he could change Rashford completely. So I'm not going to rule Rashford out in terms of his form. Sancho obviously would start ahead of him in that kind of position because he's more technical, and obviously Ten Hag likes him. But Marcus could bring his form back under Ten Hag because Ten Hag plays a type of football that Marcus would probably quite like. So I wouldn't rule him out at the moment. And no decision has been made for him to leave the club. And you have to remember he's been there since he's a kid. So it's not going to be an easy decision for him to just leave. There's been some rumours about Liverpool and stuff, and it's nonsense, but it is what it is. But we'll have to see with that one. Someone's asked about Mason Greenwood. Can't really say much, to be honest. Don't really want to say too much. We'll have to see, I'm sure, in the next few days or in the coming weeks, we'll know what happens with him. And the decision is up to the courts, isn't it? So we will have to see what happens with him. I reserve my opinion on that player, and I'm not involved, so I don't know anything in detail around Mason Greenwood. I don't really want to. I've left that aside. People have asked me a lot, but thank you for the question though. A couple of people have asked about Paul Mitchell. Again, I have said that, so I'm going to skip over that one. Other transfer targets, yes, in a couple of weeks we'll talk about that one in detail, what other transfers might surprise you. What are the chances, this from Zenith, what are the chances of Man United signing Dybala? There were some talks before Ten Hag joined to have a look at Dybala. So we'll have to see if they end up with him if they can't go and sign another forward. but there is nothing concrete with Dybala at the moment. I can see him staying in Italy, so there's not a lot with that one, but it's there. There's some sort of interest, but at the moment there is nothing in detail around Dybala, and we'll see what happens with him at the end of the season. But obviously he's leaving Juventus. He's a talented football player. Do Manchester United need him? So that's something that Ten Hag has to have that discussion around. The manager will have a lot of discussion with the players and say, hey, what do you think of this player? And they sit down and talk about it, and they'll say, actually, probably not best fit for us, and they don't go with it. So there's a lot of detail that goes on around recruitment. I might just do a podcast on that this days to give you an understanding of that. G.87, who is a long-term follower of ours, latest on Christopher Nkunku. Nothing at the moment. His Red Bull want to keep him, which has already been widely reported in the news. A big bid around 60 million could tempt them to sell him. I think Manchester United should go for this player, personally, because Rangnick has said, look, this player is top talent. And I know Bundesliga, some of the players have taken time to settle in, but you're talking about a long-term project. If you've got that type of player with Sancho, you're going to unlock a lot of assists and goals between the two. So we'll have to see, but he's versatile. He can play in different positions in attack. That's something that Ten Hag likes. If you notice some of his teams, he does switch it up a little bit in terms of his first 11 within their positions. You saw Timber was in right wing and those sort of things. So, and Nkunku's one to watch out for, but Red Bull would like to keep him and extend his contract. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But a bid could tempt him, but there is nothing concrete. He is on the list for Manchester United, though. King Eric, once Paul Mitchell comes in, will the existing club transfer shortlist be scrapped and Mitchell to come up with a new list? No. It's too late in the day, mate. If you're asking the club to make the changes now and there's no negotiations or they haven't put out to the agents, because they do put out messages around February, March to say, hey, we might discuss with you, just to build those kind of connections with the club. I don't think Paul Mitchell will make massive changes to them. And he has a similar sort of players that he would like, same as Rangnick. So I don't see that changing. That will happen next year and come into effect. A lot of the off-season, some of these scouting and the recruit, and there's a lot of work that gets on involved in them. The transfer season is a little bit less in terms of you're actually negotiating with teams. But all year round is his job to look at the type of talent for each window. So you got to make sure that this isn't just for now, this is for the future with terms of someone like Paul Mitchell or someone else comes in. But it won't change it for now. Any updates on Paul Mitchell, what he said? Any outsiders for incomings this summer? Yes, in a couple of weeks we will have a list of players and some of them will be quite obscure from what I've been told. Situation on Pereira, did the deal go through or will he go somewhere else? Doesn't look like it's going through. And there's been some news around Ten Hag possibly bringing him back. That's a bit premature. So I'm aware that he's still up for sale. So it doesn't look like he is totally in the plans of Manchester United, and we'll see from there. But at the moment, there is nothing for Pereira. And that deal looks like that team can't afford it, from what my understanding is. Updates on Paul Mitchell, already give that. Donny van der Beek situation, yes, he will come back with Manchester United and play next season, no doubt. We'll have to see what happens with him and Ten Hag and May wants him. But Ten Hag does like Donny, so I expect him to be back in the team. Defensive midfielder position, yes, we talked about it. I've given a list out in my last podcast, but I'll explain it again. So likely there's Calvin Phillips on the list. Only way Declan Rice would happen is if it's a structured deal. And there's a couple of other centre defence midfielders they're potentially looking at. So we'll have to see in the next couple of weeks once a decision's been made. Update on Paul Mitchell, yeah, we've done that. We've done an update on De Jong. Conrad, are Manchester United interested? Not at the moment. News around Paul Mitchell already done. Steve McLaren, there's still talks with him. Hasn't looked likely yet, but it can't be completely ruled out. We'll have to see what happens with Steve McLaren. I believe Manchester United is still in talks with him, so that's still a positive. Latest on Ten Hag coaching staff, well, Mitchell van der Gaag still looks likely. I think he's torn between potentially Ajax or going to Manchester United, but I think he'll end up in Manchester United. Steve McLaren is still in talks with Manchester United. We'll have to see in the next couple of days how that happens. And Robin van Persie has had some small talks with Manchester United. And Jaap Stam has had some talks. There's been a lot of talks with different coaches. And final decisions will be made in the next couple of weeks, absolutely. Please, can you give the latest regarding Paul Mitchell? Already done. When do you expect Ten Hag first interview as United manager to be? Once the season's finished. They won't do it while Rangnick's in job. That's not respectful. So I expect that to be done when the season's finished. And when Ajax have won the league. And when their season's finished as well. But there's no particular rush. But it'll be an interesting one. So there are all the questions. And appreciate you all, guys. Thank you for giving me all those questions and hopefully I've answered them for you. Now, just a quick update. So Pau Torres, his release clauses, Fabrizio has said, and I have mentioned Pau Torres for about a year and a half, saying he's always been a Manchester United on the list. Now, his release clause is 55 million euros to 60 million euros. I expect Manchester United to be involved in that. Certainly, definitely looking for a centre-back this summer, and they could do a part exchange with one of their players like Bailly or something like that this summer, and we'll see. But they will be involved in discussions with Pau Torres pretty swiftly. I know Ten Hag is interested in Pau Torres or Timber, obviously, this summer. It could be both, but we'll have to see from there on that one. And there is no other updates. Darwin Núñez is expected to speak to Manchester United in the next couple of weeks. And Ten Hag will want discussions as well to see what type of, if he could fit into there. A lot of people are saying he's not the type of player that Ten Hag wants, but this is a different football team now. He may fit for him, so we'll have to see in there in the next couple of weeks. But they're expected to sit down. And Paul Pogba was expected to leave, although Ten Hag wants discussion with him next couple of weeks. So we'll have to see if that he changes his mind, because Ten Hag could be a persuasive individual from there. But that's it, guys. And it was very short. It was just giving you an update on Pau Torres and just your questions today. Hopefully, normally I get updates on Friday. So hopefully I get some updates on the transfer targets in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully Manchester United beat Chelsea Thursday. I doubt it. But let's see. Hey, stranger things have happened. But I appreciate you guys today. Thank you very much. Take care. Make sure you have a great rest of your week. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Your life as a youngster.
Ruthless, my style is a juvenile, ran with a gang, slanged in the meanwhile, banking. I specialize in ganking, white, Mexican brothers and others daily. It's all about coming up, making sure no punks are running up.